All right, back again for another deep dive. And you know what that means. More UPSC prelims.
More specifically, the 2022 paper
You got it. We already covered the first 10 questions.
in our last session.
Yep. So now it's time for questions 11 through 20.
Ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Let's get right to it. Question 11 is about the Contempt of Courts Act.
The one from 1971.
Yeah. And it asks about, well, its basis in the Constitution. I was prepping for this, and it's kind of wild how the Constitution basically just says, hey, Supreme Court and High Courts, you can punish for contempt.
It is interesting how it's built right in.
Right. Like they've got this power all on their own.
It's definitely important to understand, how the Supreme Court and the Parliament have different roles here.
So the Parliament can't just, take away that power.
Exactly. Parliament can make laws to regulate it, sure.
Okay.
But
Got me.
itself, that comes straight from the Constitution. The Supreme Court has that authority no matter what.
So it's like Parliament sets the rules, but the Supreme Court is the one, enforcing them.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
I like it. Keeps things balanced,
Exactly. That balance of power is super important in a democracy.
Totally. Okay, question 12 had me a little confused at first.
Oh, yeah. What was it about?
It was about the Advocates Act of 1961. And get this, it specifically says that corporate lawyers and firms, they're not considered advocates.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that before.
Right. You'd think those big-time lawyers would be like the definition of advocates.
Well, the act is really focused on people who practice law in court, arguing cases, representing clients in those big legal battles.
So it's about where you do your lawyering, not just having the title.
Right. And corporate lawyers, they mostly advise companies, often without actually going to court.
I see. So it's like two different branches of the same tree.
Exactly. Both dealing with law, but in different ways.
Makes sense. But wait, if they're not under this act, who keeps those corporate lawyers in check?
That's where bar councils come in. They have the power to make the rules for legal education and recognition. So they kind of shape the whole legal field for both types of lawyers.
Gotcha. So they're like the referees, making sure everyone plays by the rules.
Exactly.
Love it. Okay, on to question 13. This one is about the president's powers.
Specifically.
It asks about when the president can say no to a bill that wants to change the Constitution.
Oh, right. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. I bet this is one of those tricky questions UPSC is known for.
Definitely. It's not as simple as the president just having a veto. There are very specific circumstances where they can do that.
Like what?
Well, for example, if a bill messes with the way India is structured as a federal country, the president can step in.
So it's about protecting the whole system, not just individual laws.
Right. And don't forget, before it even gets to the president, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha have to be on board.
With a supermajority too, right?
You got it. It's a whole process.
The constitutional dance. Okay, let's shift gears to question 14. This one's about the different types of ministers in the government.
Sounds simple enough.
It does. But I'm going to quiz you before our expert spills the beans. Can you name all 4 ranks of ministers?
Let me think. Cabinet ministers, for sure.
Good start.
And ministers of state.
Keep going.
Ministers of state with independent charge.
Almost there. One more.
Okay, deputy ministers.
You got them all.
Phew. I was racking my brain there for a second.
See? Told you it was a quiz. But seriously, there's a reason for these different ranks, right? It's not just about fancy titles.
Definitely not. Each rank comes with a different level of responsibility and authority.
So, cabinet ministers, they're the top dogs.
Pretty much. They advise the prime minister directly, head up the big ministries.
And ministers of state, they kind of report to them?
Sometimes. They might also be in charge of a specific area on their own.
Okay. And deputy ministers, they're like the assistants.
Exactly. They handle the day-to-day stuff in the ministries.
Gotcha. So it's like a well-organized team, everyone with their own role.
That's the idea.
But hold on, is there a limit on how many ministers we can have? Could we just have 1,000 ministers?
Good question. Actually, the Constitution sets a limit.
Really? What is it?
No more than 15% of the total number of members in the Lok Sabha can be ministers.
Wow, there's a cap. Why is that?
Well, think about it. Too many ministers, and things could get pretty chaotic. It's like trying to run a company with hundreds of CEOs.
That makes sense, yeah. It's about finding that balance again, right?
Always about balance.
All right, moving on to question 15. This one is all about the Lok Sabha and what makes it so special.
What sets it apart from the Rajya Sabha, you mean?
Exactly. Like, what are its unique powers?
Well, one big one is the power to say, we don't trust the government anymore.
Whoa, hold on. They can just do that.
Yep. It's called a motion of no confidence. If the Lok Sabha votes that they don't have confidence in the Council of Ministers, the government has to go.
Wow, that's a lot of power.
It is. And that's not all. The Lok Sabha also gets to control the money.
They're like the bank.
Kind of. Only the Lok Sabha can pass the money bill. That means anything related to finances, it starts and ends with them.
So if you want to get anything done, you got to be on their good side.
Pretty much. And there's one more big power.
Hmm.
They can impeach the president.
Whoa, serious stuff. So they've got the power to, like, check the government, control the money, and even remove the president.
You got it. The Lok Sabha is a pretty powerful body.
Makes sense, since they're the ones directly elected by the people.
Okay.
Question 16 takes us into the wild world of politics.
Ooh, juicy. What's the topic?
It's about the anti-defection law. Basically, it's meant to stop politicians from switching sides all the time.
Oh, right. The political flip-floppers.
Exactly. You know, joining a different party or voting against their own party just because they feel like it.
And the law is supposed to make them think twice before they jump ship.
Right. It aims to keep the government stable by, making sure people stick to their commitments.
So how does it work?
Well, one key thing is the timeline. If a member of parliament is nominated, they can't just join any other party for 6 months.
6 months, that's like a political trial period.
Exactly. But if they do switch sides within that time, the anti-defection law comes into play.
And what happens then?
The presiding officer of the House, like the Speaker or the Chairman, gets to decide if they should be disqualified.
So they're kind of like the judge in this whole political drama.
You got it. They get to decide who stays and who goes. Speaking of important roles, question 17 is all about the Attorney General and the Solicitor General.
Ah, the legal bigwigs.
Exactly. And I've always wondered, when they have those meetings with the government, who else is there?
Oh, that's a good question. It's actually not just government folks.
Really? Who else can be there?
Well, basically anyone the Attorney General calls in. It could be experts on a certain topic, people from different organizations, anyone whose input they need.
So it's not just a bunch of lawyers sitting around.
Not necessarily. It depends on what they're discussing.
Makes sense. So what about the Attorney General versus the Solicitor General? What's the difference?
Well, they're both legal advisors, but the Attorney General is the top dog. They're appointed by the president, and it's a position written right into the Constitution.
Okay, so they're the boss.
Yep. And the Solicitor General is kind of like their deputy. They help out and take over if the Attorney General can't be there.
Got it. But how do they leave office? Do they, bang a gavel and say, I quit?
Uh-huh. I doubt it. They both just submit their resignations to the president.
Simple as that.
Seems like it. No dramatic courtroom exits. Okay, question 18 is about a legal term that sounds kind of intimidating. Mandamus.
Mandamus, what in the world is that?
It's actually not that complicated. Think of it like a command, a court order that tells a public official or a government body, hey, you got to do this specific thing because it's your legal duty.
So it's a way to make sure they don't slack off.
Exactly. It's a tool to hold those in power accountable.
But wait, can I use it to, make my neighbor mow their lawn?
Haha. Unfortunately not. There are limits. It's only for public authorities, not for private individuals or companies.
Okay, so it's about keeping the government in line, not settling personal disputes.
Exactly. All right, question 19 brings us to something that's been in the news a lot lately. The Ayushman Bharat digital mission.
Right. It's a big part of India's plan to make healthcare accessible to everyone.
Absolutely. It's all about creating a digital system that connects patients, doctors, hospitals, everyone involved in healthcare.
So it's not just about providing healthcare. It's about doing it in a modern, tech-savvy way.
Exactly. And a key part of that is making sure all hospitals, both private and public, are part of the system.
So it's like a national network.
Yeah, you could think of it like that.
Yeah.
And it also emphasizes portability.
Portability, what does that mean?
It means that no matter where you go in India, you can access your health records and benefits. So even if you move or travel, you're still covered.
Wow, that's a game changer. It's like having a digital health passport.
Exactly.
All right, last question for this round. Question 20 is about the Deputy Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Now, I've always wondered, does the Deputy Speaker just automatically take over if the Speaker is gone?
Good question. It's actually not that straightforward.
Really? So it's not like a, hey, I'm out, you're in charge situation?
Nope. There are specific rules. For example, the speaker has to officially ask for leave from the House, and only then can the deputy speaker take over.
So it's all very official.
It is. It's all about making sure the Lok Sabha keeps running smoothly, even if the main speaker is away.
But hold on, how does the deputy speaker get chosen in the first place? Is it like a popularity contest?
Haha, not quite. They're actually elected by the Lok Sabha.
So it's like a mini election within the Lok Sabha.
Exactly. They take choosing their deputy speaker seriously.
That makes sense. Okay, that wraps up our deep dive into questions 11 through 20. We covered a lot of ground, from the powers of the courts to the ins and outs of the Lok Sabha and even the Attorney General's posse.
It's a lot to take in, but I think we broke it down pretty well.
I hope so. And remember, understanding these concepts isn't just about passing the UPSC Prelims. It's about becoming informed citizens, about knowing how our country works.
Absolutely.